Hello, Adam Hanna here in another, or the first, music theory analysis video. Today we will be talking about the Marche by C.P.E. Bach, going over an analysis of the initial and the primary motif of this piece and how it flourishes to create the melodic intricacies that we can observe in this piece of music. So here is the lick, the motif. It is 3 notes, A, D, A. That is all. And Bach takes this and turns it into something interesting. If we look at the first measure and we consider that maybe that half note is 2 quarter notes tied together, we can say that the second beat of that half note actually belongs to the next phrase, and it's just again, but with an ornamentation in it. So I would consider that repetition and rhythmic displacement, because this this return of the motif, second time it comes around, it starts on beat 2 of that measure, whereas it initially starts on the pickup, or beat 4. Next, we're going to look at the scalar pattern that occurs in measure 3. I considered this fragmentation because if we consider that maybe that ornamentation from measure 1 is in its own way kind of a statement, then we can say that Bach takes this and then continues it, and then inverts it. As so. And then I also considered the fact that maybe this whole scalar pattern outlines a D scale, and in that way is just an elaborated D. And so in a sense, we could just say that, hey, what's implied here is D, F sharp D, which is the motif from the beginning, except melodic diminution is in effect here, as it jumps a major third instead of a major fourth. And then it is repeated again with a little bit of an ornamentation. And then here we get something different, and it goes B, A, B, G sharp. And I thought to myself, oh, well, it starts on B, just as the ornamentation from measure 1, but instead of going up to the C sharp, it goes down, so it's inverted, B, A, and then it goes to do it again. If we say, hey, G sharp's just the enharmonic of A flat, that's a chromatic alteration. It goes B, A flat, up to the E, and then does a scalar pattern down to the A, where he continues once again the motif, bum, bum, bum. Except here now we have rhythmic displacement and augmentation, rhythmic augmentation. We start on beat 1, so already it's off-placed from where the initial motif took place, and we get some rhythmic displacement because the initial A is a quarter, as a dotted quarter note up to a 8th note D, down trill on the B, and then 8th note A, quarter A. And then in this last passage, or this last little phrase that you hear before it repeats, we get both transposition, rhythmic displacement, octave displacement, and inversion. And I think this is really interesting. And we start on the E, and we go to A. And really, I think when I listen to this lick, I hear bum, 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 like the original motif, except when we jump up the 4th, instead of going back down, we go up to that E in the last 8th note of that passage. Bum, bum, bum. And so in that sense, there's a little bit of inversion taking place. The rhythmic displacement happens because this scalar passage starts on the downbeat of the second beat of this measure, And there's transposition because, hey, it starts on E and goes up the fourth instead of starting on A and going up to the D. And the octave displacement, I said, if you consider that maybe the E and the A are on its own, we hear and then at the very end of the passage. Looking at the next section here, very similar to the first, except now we're focused on the dominant A, and so we have some transposition going on here. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. And then we hear it again, same as the last one. If we start on the E, the second beat of that half note, we go bum, 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 with a little bit of an ornamentation there. Okay? And then we move into this scalar pattern. And, really, there's just lots of, it's either a leap or it's some sort of elaborated scalar pattern. And here, when I see this, what really sticks out to me is that F sharp, A, and then back down to the F sharp. And here we have both transposition and melodic diminution in the fact that it jumps up a minor third here, bum, 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 and it starts on F sharp. And then I also noticed that if we look at the two measures here, the start of that quarter note before the scalar pattern and then where it goes, we actually have an A, which is the initial motif from the very beginning, A, D, A, except there's inversion because he starts on the higher A, the higher octave A, and goes A, D, A, there, which is really interesting. And of course, there's rhythmic augmentation because everything is spread out. We have, that A on the downbeat of one measure and then the D on the downbeat of beat two of the next measure, and then so on. And then we get into this cool scalar pattern. Lots of cool scalar patterns in this piece. And what stuck out to me about these scalar patterns is that the interval of the fourth appears over and over and over again. And here in this first line of the second, or the first measure of the second line, we have, believe it or not, the fourth jumps D up to G. Dun, dun, dun. Where have I heard that before? And then we transpose that and go E, A, E, and then transpose it again. Here, it's a little bit harder to hear, but essentially what we have is D, G, D, a return to the fourth interval from the very beginning of that line. And then I considered also, when looking at the big picture here, that if we were to say that this scalar pattern starts on the A from the very last measure of the first line, so it starts on A, and then we could say that this entire passage fits into the D scale. Really, this whole three measures of the second line could be considered a big elaborated D, essentially. And so really we're going A, D, and then back to A on the downbeat of two in that last measure there, which is the return of the original motif of the march from measure one in the original, not necessarily key, but the notes A, D, A. And then we move on to the final section here. We have a scalar pattern downwards starting on D, or B, B, A, G, F sharp. In this next measure, we have B, okay, starting on B, yep, okay. But instead of going down, we're going up. So we have B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G. So that initial scale downwards is inverted, and instead we go upwards. And I also noted that I think it's fun that Bach also intertwines this fourth leap, because there's just fourths everywhere. You gotta love the fourths. The fourths are everywhere. He interjects this fourth motif transpose, this B to E, or in the middle of this line. So you're hearing scales and scales and scales and scales and scales, and then all of a sudden there's, and you're like, wait a minute, whoa, Okay, and then we could even say that if we start on the downbeat of 2 of the second scale, which is a D, and then look at where it goes up to A and then back down to D again, which is B, D, D, which is similar melodic contour to the original motif, but a melodic augmentation because it is expanded. Bum, 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 bum. But not to worry, because Bach then utilizes melodic diminution when he takes the D from the past motif and incorporates it into the next motif, going D, F sharp, D, a major third. And then not to worry in case one feared that the fourths were gone and there's just fifths and thirds now. No, because at the end we return with the same sort of pattern from the last section, the ascending fourths. We get the A to D, and then the D to A, and then D, the fourths, in the octaves. And then we also get that the original motif using the same notes, A, D, A, except the final A is an octave above. And then landing on the D. That is all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Please come again. The end.